Welcome to the Ithihasa channel. Today we talk about Kunti having those beautiful Devaputras and Pandu's joy at having them and how they came to be born. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Amme Narayana. Om Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Guruve Namaha. Om Nagendraya Namaha. So Kunti had a boon from sage Durvasa where she could recite a mantra thinking about a god whom she wanted, a deva whom she wanted. It was an ancient mantra from eons ago where the gods could be summoned at will to come to earth to do their bidding. This particular mantra was a childbearing mantra so that Kunti could bear children from these devas. Pandu knew he needed to have a child to take his race forward. And it wasn't a very difficult choice on who the first deva should be who would bestow the child on Kunti. It had to be Dharma Deva, the great Yama or Dharma Deva, who was the upholder of Dharma of all the worlds, had to be the man had to be the god who would give Kunti their first child. So Kunti said, yes, we should call Dharma. It would be an apt person to call for our first child. So Pandu told Madri, look, Madri, till then Madri didn't have a clue of what was happening. Pandu very smartly kept Madri out of those discussions and took the decision with Kunti and decided to tell Madri, come Madri, let's go to all the surrounding ashramas around the Shatashringa range. We'll meet the rishis, we'll have discussions with them, we'll talk to them, we'll plan things with them, and we will learn from them. So Madri said, yes, that's a brilliant idea. Come, Kunti, let's go. And then Pandu said, no, Kunti needs to stay back. She has some work to do. It's just two of us are going. And obviously, Madri was very excited to have a husband all for herself. And they went away for the yatra around Shatashringa to the other ashramas. Kunti was alone in the dwelling that they stayed in. Kunti closed her eyes and started chanting the mantra of Durvasa and summoned Dharma. Dharma Deva came in a flash. He was a very quiet god. He was a very silent Deva. He smiled, but he was magnificent. On seeing him, Kunti couldn't control herself, and she knew that this was something that she needn't be invited to do. She knew she was just waiting for it. And Dharma spent the night in the ashram with Kunti, in the little dwelling with Kunti, and in the morning he was gone. It was a night she would remember for a long time. A night which wasn't as exotic as the one she had earlier with Surya Dev, but a beautiful night nevertheless. And the next day when Pandu and Madri came back, seeing the smile on Kunti's face and seeing the glow on her eyes, he knew Kunti was with child. He was all excited like it was his own. He was absolutely thrilled. He hugged Kunti and his joy knew no bounds. And it was then that Madri slowly realized the impact of the situation where Kunti actually summoned a god to make her pregnant. Kunti actually summoned a god to help her have a child. And she was now with child. For 9 months, Kunti bore that child who was in her, given by Dharmadev. The child was as peaceful as Dharmadev, and she could feel the glow in her skin and the glow in her face and the feeling of calmness and the feeling of well-being she had throughout her pregnancy. Pandu and Madri, on the other hand, pampered Kunti like no end. Whatever she wanted, whatever her whims were during the pregnancy, they ensured that Kunti had it. Because this was precious. This was something outworldly. This was something absolutely phenomenal. And in time, Yudhishthira was born. When the first child, Yudhishthira, was born, a voice came from the sky saying, "This is Yudhishthira. He will be steadfast in battle. He will be steadfast throughout all hardships. He will be absolutely like his father, the upholder of Dharma. He will be the king who will rule the Bharatvarsha. He will be the king who will take this Bharatvarsha to new heights. And with people to help him around, he will be the greatest ruler of this country." And on hearing this little family of Pandu, Kunti, and Madri were absolutely thrilled. This news reached the Hastinapur palace and created a tumult there. We will talk about the tumult a little later. Time passed, a year passed, Pandu started getting restless again. We need another child. This child is too peaceful. He is so accepting to knowledge. But we need a child who will fight. A child who will take this country forward, who will command the lands and the army. A child who will make the name of Hastinapur great, who will take this country to greater heights. For that, you need a warrior child who will help this child Yudhishthira. For this, we need a Deva who has unparalleled power. Unlike the first time when Pandu had to have a long discussion with Kunti and convince her, Kunti needed no convincing this time. She was addicted to the Devas, and that addiction doesn't go away easily. Yes, she made a bit of a pretense as saying no, but she just couldn't wait to have the Deva. And she kind of knew which Deva Pandu had in mind. It had to be only one. And Pandu said, it has to be Vayu this time. It has to be the god of the winds. And Pandu, the moment Pandu said it, Kunti could feel the rush inside her and the excitement of having to be with the uncontrollable Vayu. Pandu said, "This is the same Vayu who gave Vayu Putra Anjaneya, Vayu Putra Hanuman. This is the same Hanuman, this is the same Anjaneya who picked up the hill from the northern Himalayan ranges and took it all the way down to Lanka to bring back Lakshmana to life. This is the great Hanuman Anjaneya who stood by the great Purushottam Rama through all his troubles and travails. This is the Anjaneya whose father you should invite." Kunti said, "Yes, we'll go ahead. But I have a condition. We won't do it in our dwelling." Deep inside, she knew Vayu was not controllable. You cannot control the wind. You cannot control a tempest. And she knew that that little dwelling wouldn't contain Vayu. She also knew that ever since the day she spent that night with Dharma to beget Yudhishthira, she was always ashamed of having to face Madri and Pandu in that same house, because every now and then she would remember the time she spent with Dharma. Reticent and quiet as he was still a force to reckon with that she couldn't forget. And she knew that every day she would look at Pandu, she would feel a twang of shame deep inside her, and she didn't want to spend the time with Vayu in the same house as Yudhishthira was. So she told Pandu, "This time you all don't go out. I will go away into the mountains. I will go away into the mountains into a cave where I will invoke the Lord Vayu, call him over, invite him over, and spend my time with him." And the Mahabharata explains that every time Kunti went to invoke the gods, she had to do it at a very specific time in her cycle. That time was elaborately explained as to the time she would be the most fertile and the most recipient to the Devas. And as Kunti walked northwards to the mountains, all the Devas in Devalok knew that Kunti is going to summon a god, that Kunti is going to summon a Deva. Excitement was rife in the air. Who would be the next Deva summoned? Yes, rumors floated around it would be Vayu, but you never know. Till the moment the name is mentioned, you never know who the Deva is going to be, who is going to be summoned. And Kunti's beauty was legendary. Of course, she was something that was out of this world, who should have been married to the Devas. So all the gods were excited. And as she walked, she could feel the burning sun on her neck. Surya wanted to remind her that you were first with me and you can call me again if you wanted. And she could feel the burning evening sun as she walked northwards. And the sun started playing, Surya Dev started playing a melancholy of colors in the sky, making the sky orange, green, red, blue, of various hues and colors, enticing Kunti, trying to see to it that she changes her mind and calls Surya himself. He played a role of, he changed the entire scenery of the Himalayan skies, sometimes shining bright, sometimes dim, sometimes ensuring a cool, scented air would pass by, and sometimes back to bright again to remind her that he was her first lover. But Kunti was very steadfast in what she wanted, and Kunti was very sure of what she wanted. And as she walked to the hills, Vayu realized the game is his, and he started blowing. First a mild, gentle breeze, then a strong wind, then a tempest-like gush of air, swirling around the mountain tops and the hilltops and around the rocks, swirling in such force that it created a variety of sounds and whistles through the rocks and the hills that Kunti was passing. And Kunti knew that Vayu has realized that she wants him. And Kunti knew that probably Vayu himself wants her. And all the beautiful sounds that were coming out from the wind flowing between the rocks made Kunti excited. She went to the mouth of a cave, closed her eyes, looked to the north, studiously neglecting to look west where Surya was sinking in down, where Surya was setting, especially not looking to the west lest her heart became weak. She called on the mantra and called Vayu. Within no time, there was a tempest around her. And suddenly, a gorgeously handsome man, bright and humongous in his dimensions, almost transparent to view, his hair flowing in streams and curls with the wind, presented himself in front of Kunti. Kunti swooned and fell down, and he grasped her just in time before she hit the ground. He gave her a drink, an elixir, which calmed her down, which made her peaceful, and which elicited a beautiful feeling inside her. He then took her on his chariot and took her around the earth. Yes, it could be a chariot, it could be a spaceship, it could be a rocket, we don't really know, but it was a chariot that Vayu took her in. And he took her around the earth. He showed her that where it is light and daytime in some areas, it is night in the others. He showed her that there are places on the other side of the earth from where they were, where also civilizations existed, where also advanced civilizations existed, probably the South American Inca civilization. He showed up people who looked different from how they looked, but who were equally smart and intelligent and equally civilized. He took her across the seas. He took her across the Pacific Ocean, as vast as a Sheer Sagar, a sea of milk. He took her to different parts of the earth, to the northern ice caps and the southern ice caps. And mind you, it was the ice ages at that time. It was the Dwapar Yuga, the ice age, where the ice caps extended quite far down southwards from where they currently extend now in the north. And the Antarctic area also was quite large. He took her across all these places. He spent a long time with her. He spent almost a week with Kunti. And in that time, Kunti had the experience which she could only dream of, which no woman in this earth could even ever experience, ever in the future, never in the past. And at the end of 7 days, Vayu brought her back to the cave where he took her from. When Kunti walked back to the ashrama, to the dwelling where Pandu and Madri were there, she was already with child, with Vayu's child. Looking at her, Pandu knew that she was with child. He was overjoyed like it was his own. Madri was also overjoyed. And in time, in 9 months, she gave birth to a huge, magnificent, strong child. And just as in the case of Yudhishthira, a voice came in the sky talking about the great Bhima, that this child should be called Bhimasena, that this child will be a worthy brother to his elder brother Yudhishthira, that he will help his elder brother attain glory, that he will help Bhima, that Bhima will help Yudhishthira attain complete control over Bharatvarsha, that he will stand by his brother when he rules this country with dharma, with justice, and as a just ruler. This child shall be called Bhimasena. That was the voice from the heavens. And the overjoyed family continued living in Shatashringa with the elder brother Yudhishthira and the younger brother Bhima, who sat at their father's feet. Yudhishthira was an exceptional student. Pandu, having attained a lot of knowledge and asceticism over the years and through immense penance, had a lot of knowledge to impart. And Yudhishthira, though he was just an infant, he would just stare at his father's eyes and take in everything that his father said. Stories of the past, stories of times gone by, wondrous stories and knowledge of the Vedas, knowledge of the sun, knowledge of measurements. That was all available in those days. Pandu would divulge it to Yudhishthira, and Bhima and Yudhishthira would sit and listen. One day when they were traveling, Kunti was holding Bhima and walking, and there was suddenly a roar of a tiger nearby, and Kunti got startled and she tripped on a vine around and she lost her balance, and in that instant she let go of her son Bhimasena, and Bhima fell down the mountain onto a rock at the bottom. Kunti shrieked in terror. Not caring for her life, she rushed down the mountain in absolute panic, thinking that the worst has happened. And when she reached there, she saw this wonderful child Bhimasena laughing in excitement at that roller coaster ride fall he had down the mountain. The rock below him had shattered with the impact of his fall. But Bhimasena just was gurgling and screaming in excitement, probably wanting to have more of it. That is when Pandu and Kunti and Madri knew that this was no ordinary child. This child was definitely the Putra of Vayu. Shortly after this, Pandu started asking for another child. It was obvious. When do you stop? When does greed ever die down? And obviously at this time, Kunti didn't need absolutely didn't need any form of cajoling or inducements or any form of convincing. And there was only one person who could fit the bill for the third child, and that was the Deva Indra, the king of the gods, the ultimate king of the gods. In the next episode, we shall discuss Indra and we shall discuss the birth of Arjuna. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Guruve Namaha.